So, I mean, first of all, as it relates to Tumblr, we were absolutely surprised by this, as I think, the rest of the world that was looking in was, we hadn't expected GIFs to be a big part of Tumblr. We hadn't really expected any of this, Tumblr to take shape the way it has, but, we give some tools and we give room to make stuff, and this creative community runs with that and constantly surprises us. So GIFs are a really good example of that. So just specifically, just kind of looking at how that's gone down over the last few years, I think there are a lot of things. I mean, the most interesting thing to me is that the tools haven't really changed. People are using the same really kind of convoluted tools to put these things together, and it's hard. I mean, it hasn't really gotten any easier to make these things.
You mean like kind of animation tools, or?
Yeah, and Photoshop to a large extent. I mean, you're piecing these things together frame by frame. It's very meticulous to get the colors to look good. It's an incredibly meticulous process. But people have come up with a lot of tricks, and I think there are a few other things that have started to. So I think it's a few things. So one is digital video being much more available. You've got source material to make these GIFs. So a lot of what we think of GIFs as GIFs today are really highlights from video, they're loops from video, and that just wasn't available before. It used to be that you were spitting 3D images or little 3D characters out of Microsoft Word to create little animations, or you were drawing little stick figures. Now you've actually got source video material that you can use to compose these cool little moments, these cool loops, these cool highlights. So there's more source material, more people have these digital cameras, they're shooting their own video or shooting their own images that they're stitching together on their phones. We've got more source content to work with. It's easier to host now with platforms like Tumblr, so there's more to do with it. It's not figuring out how to upload it onto the internet and then embed it in a GeoCities page. There was a whole generation of these platforms that didn't really support it when you couldn't upload an animated image to your photo album on a lot of these networks. Tumblr comes along and we said, no, you can do something with them really easily. People have more source material, they have a place to put them, and the requirements have been lifted a little bit. So it used to be, a 100K image was kind of a big deal, something that was like, a pain to deal with back in the earlier days of the internet. Now you can have these things weigh a megabyte, and the browser can still suck them down pretty quickly and render and play them pretty quickly. So requirements have been lifted, more source material, more to do with them, and I think the community has used this extra space to get really, really creative, and some of the things that they're doing with them are just absolutely awesome. I mean, one of the coolest sort of inventions to come out of, really one brilliant creator on Tumblr, a woman named Jamie Beck, this thing called Cinemagrams. So these are, Cinemagraphs. So these are gently animated, really beautiful photos. I mean, these are just spectacular, the whole DSLR set, the whole real lit, gorgeous photo shoot that she composes, but records them as video, as HD video, rather than just a still photo. And what she does with them is she basically freezes the whole image, except for these very delicate little animations that she puts in on the hair fluttering in the wind or the coffee cup kind of steaming, and it adds this dimension to these photos that's just unreal. I mean, it's really unlike anything you've ever seen before. I mean, it reminds me of the cover of the newspapers in Harry Potter, where you've got the guy looking around. It's that sort of effect of a moment in time with a little bit of life. It's just really remarkable. So the requirements have all kind of been lifted, just on the internet in general. Again, as bandwidth is readily available, as browsers can handle bigger files. So there are a few kind of natural built-in requirements for GIFs. There are a few on Tumblr specifically. So I believe we have a 1 meg limit on the files, on the image files that you upload. So that means there's some kind of natural ceiling to how long that you can make these things or how gigantic you can make these things. That's still pretty big, and the bigger what do you call it, the requirement that most people have to work around is the color requirement. These things can only, and from their inception, have only ever been able to be 256 colors. So working around that is really interesting, because you think about a video that has thousands, millions of colors in it, that's playing through a whole bunch of frames of changing shots and angles, and if one is looking down at the ground and has a lot of green in it, and then the thing's looking up at clouds going by or something, you literally have these animators or these clever GIF makers who are going in and trying to figure out, all right, how much of the green do I want to let in there, how much of the blue and the kind of grays and clouds do I need to let in there for this to look right. One of the things that you see a lot of these guys doing, one of the tricks, is just making them black and white. So you can make them bigger, you can make them a little kind of grainier, cooler, longer. I think the popular ones, the ones that go far and wide, are the ones that are, they show a profound moment. So they're a few seconds. I mean, they can go for minutes, but the ones that I think you see, and this is just, I think, true of most of these things that you go viral. They're things that immediately capture you. You don't have to sit there to understand it. They immediately capture you, and they're so sort of profound that they don't need much more around them to explain them. So yeah, it's usually the shorter stuff that you see go far and wide.